who can demystify the problem that I'm having between the 4 mods, Daylight Classic, Ultimate Eyecandy, Relight, and Theme Mixer that seems to be occurring with exposure and ambient light intensity? Let me see if I can explain. This is the 3rd take of this video. All right, so upon game load, I have a nice city. It looks a little bit too dark. The exposure is at 0.71, should be at 1. Okay, so that brings things a little bit better. 0.71 is apparently the theme's internal embedded exposure level. I don't know how they work, but that's how that theme loads. The theme that I have selected. It's a nice theme, you know, it gives like a nice, you know, European look to it. Ultimate Eyecandy, ambient light intensity, and global light intensity upon game load, even though they're not set at 0, the values are shown at 0. So therefore, I can only conclude that these sliders do not come into effect until you touch them. I don't like touching them because with Theme Mixer 2, whenever I load a new theme, after I have touched these, it starts messing with, it doesn't show me the proper values, and they have to be toggled, they have to be touched every single time that I load a theme that has a different exposure level to get it right. Next problem. Daylight Classic. If I go to the options, I have my settings at the recommended levels or the recommended values that Ronix from Relight, the author of Relight, recommends to have them set at in order for Relight to work at its best. All of these are turned off. The only one that I have turned on is Classic Fog Effect and allow Classic Fog Effect if day-night cycle is on, so that way it can work with Cube Map Replacer. So I can have my nice pretty clouds in the background. Okay. First problem. Ronix, you'll probably see, oh, well, the exposure levels aren't set properly because that's way too dark for my mod. And you would be correct. I have to go to Daylight Classic and just momentarily tap Classic Sunlight Color to bring the exposure levels up. Not the LUTs or anything else, just the exposure level proper. Click on that, turn it off to get rid of it, and as you notice, the entire map got brighter. It's not the color, it's the exposure that got enabled, toggled on upon game load. Why? Why do I have to go to Daylight Classic? Anyone out there? I don't know who can answer this question. Maybe I should give this video out to the 4 different mod authors, and maybe they can discuss it with one another how this works, because I don't understand. Daylight Classic's Classic Sun Color has to be touched in order to bring the exposure levels to 1.0. I'm guessing it's 1.0. So I'm going to go back to my thing. Now things look proper for midday. It's the time of day is set at 12 noon. I'm going to pause the day-night cycle for this video. Now, look what happens, Ronix, when I click Force Low Shadow Bias. It shouldn't have anything to do with exposure, right? But look what happens when I touch it. Huh? Everything goes back to darker stuff. I'm going to turn this off, go back to Daylight Classic, touch this again, and everything is the way it should be again. What's up with that? I don't understand it. Next problem. each theme seems to have an embedded exposure level. So right now I have this exposed at 1.0. But if I were to go to a new theme, and I can pick anything that I want, let's say Realistics, there's a typo there, by the way, Realistics European from Captain Soap. Okay. Have that. And then what do I have to do next? There was something. Oh yeah, I was going to show off. No, wrong one. There we go. The atmosphere exposure level changes on every single theme. If I were to, I wish I could bring, I want to have both the theme and the atmosphere windows open at the same time. That would be great. But notice how exposure went down to 0.77. Is this something that I should not touch once I've loaded a theme? That's a question that I have. The next question is, why are they at different exposure levels? Is it just something that's independent of Ultimate Eyecandy? In other words, did the theme creator set the exposure level to get a certain effect on their own map, perhaps? Don't know. Let me go back to my mix that I had selected. I'm going to load, okay, demo test. So this is how I would prefer to have things closer by. Haven't touched loots yet, but if I were, I mean, you know, get different settings. I have it set at soft right now. Doesn't really have any effect. I don't even know why I brought it up. Ambient light intensity and global light intensity. I don't like touching these. I know, Ronix, that you tell us to set them at 1 here and 5 up here. I don't know if those comments are out of date on your workshop page for Relight, but the moment that I touch it, here's what happens. As long as I do not touch these two settings, the proper exposure tends to load for these different mixes. I remember you telling me once on your Twitch stream that you don't use Theme Mixer 2. So perhaps Relight did not really have Theme Mixer in mind when you created it probably didn't even exist. I think Theme Mixer 2 came out after 2018. I don't know. So confused. I don't know how to end this video other than telling you that it's frustrating that every single time I load my game, I have to reset my exposure levels to meet what I want them to be at. I don't know why. And I don't know what's at fault. I don't know if there's an incompatibility with ambient light intensity. If I were to touch this, yeah, it's at 0.71. Is ambient light intensity the same as exposure in Theme Mixer 2? That's another question I have. But notice that the moment I touched it, and this is the default setting, it for some reason, Ultimate Eyecandy sets the ambient light intensity at like 0.7 instead of 1, the way that Ronix prefers for Relight. He wants this at 5, he wants this one at 1. Global light intensity at 5, ambient light intensity at 1. That's what he recommends because it's right in the middle. And he noted that on his on his workshop page, he says the default can look dark, so just turn it up. Lol. Why do I have to explain that 100 times? Well, I don't know. Why does Ultimate Eyecandy have it set at something else as a default? And Ultimate Eyecandy, why does this show the display at 0 until you touch it? Shouldn't it show where it's at when you load the game? That seems kind of odd. Like why? Here's 0. That's definitely not what I want to have. So I think that when ambient light intensity is set when you first load the game, it should show the level that it's at, which is at 0.7. And this one should be at 6. Just, you know, show off the setting that it's set at. So that probably could be fixed. I don't know why force low shadow bias changes things. It shouldn't. I don't know why Daylight Classic has to be toggled to get that set up. And I don't know why every theme has a different exposure level that seems independent of ambient light intensity from Ultimate Eyecandy. Oh God, what I just did it again. Touching that button is evil. It shouldn't have anything to do with exposure, right? I mean, it has nothing to do with that. It's just about the shadows for, like, you know, trees and props and stuff. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Very frustrating. Hopefully someone can point out to me the incompatibilities or what's at play here. What's the method behind this madness?